it's nighttime. Maybe not. Yeah, that's better. Ooh. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and I am again in the What Is My Life Become chair. Before I get into today's video, and this is my story, let's go ahead and roll the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, you guys, so welcome back. And first of all, my name is Christina. I'm going to do this video in 3 segments, so I will timestamp it for you, so I'll do it in 3 portions. And I just thought I would sit down and kind of, share my story of who I am and who you're subscribed to. And so what I'm going to do is doing this in segments for you guys. It's going to be a long one because I'm going to tell you my story. And basically, so you kind of get an idea of who you're subscribed to and where I'm coming from, and that way when we get in the car and we start just driving around and talking, then you'll kind of know the backstory of me. I should have did this as a first video on this channel, but I decided just to kind of throw some videos that I already had pre-prepared, and I'll explain that here in a few minutes, but I just thought I would say, my name is Christina, and hello, and I am so glad that you are subscribed here. But I thought it would be kind of cool to, just to tell my story, let you know who I am, where I come from, why I have these channels I have here on YouTube, especially this one, and hopefully you guys will get a better understanding, and you'll have fun with me as I grow here on YouTube. So first, let's talk about me. It's all about me. But my birthday is actually this month, and when I posted the last 2 videos, I posted them for a reason. So I wasn't going to put them on this channel because this channel was designed to seriously just be a car vlog channel. And then if you notice from the trailer, I actually changed the trailer. Now I do this sometimes in my thought process when I start a new channel. I feel like it's early enough in the stages for me to make any changes that I need to before it gets, a following that's kind of grown and people get established. So my apologies if you're like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? You notice something different. But the reason why I changed the name to Xtina Diaries is because I want to be able to car vlog with those diaries, and I want to be able to sit down from time to time and just kind of talk to you like we're hanging out together. And I just thought that would be easier. I still am apprehensive because I want this channel to completely be a car vlog channel. And I'll explain to you in my YouTube segment why the car vlogging is particular to this channel. But I really kind of just want to, let you know, I did change the name of the channel to the Xtina Diaries. I wanted to make it the Christina Diaries, but I think it was already taken because sometimes when I choose a handle, YouTube will let me know it's already taken or something, and it'll try to add a number on the end of it, and I just didn't want that. So I went ahead and put the Xtina Diaries, and that way I could put the search handle the same. So welcome to the new name. And this is early on. I am starting from scratch here on YouTube. I am no stranger to YouTube. I have been on YouTube for a very long time, but let's talk about who I am, where I'm coming from, a little bit of my backstory, and then we'll go into YouTube. And then the final segment of this video will be all about mental health. And that way you'll kind of know where I'm going with that and some of the things that I'm doing, in regards to my mental health. And that way, if there's anything else that you want to kind of check out, then you're free to. So first of all, my name's Christina. I am 52. I have 2 adult children, 2 boys. One is 35 now. I can't even believe it. He turned 35 on July 8th. And my other one is 31, I think. He was born in 1993, so I think he's 31. I think he's 31. But his birthday is in April. And so both of their birthdays just passed, and then mine is kind of the last because my mom's is in June. And so, I'm not married. I've been single now for about almost 5 years, or a little over, to be honest, and we'll talk about that. But, in terms of this channel, this was originally supposed to be a car vlog channel, and it really will remain. And sometimes I will switch it up just a tiny bit because these are talking videos. So, and the reason why I have chosen long form content on this channel, I do want to make this clear for you guys with my my story is that originally when I did car vlogs, they were born when my father passed away, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But originally I made them long form because usually when you go to therapy and you kind of talk about what's going on with you, it's usually like a 45-minute session. Sometimes it's 55 minutes depending on the professional that you see. So that's why I kind of like that whole 45 to 55 minute realm. Sometimes, you know, going on my feedback of the people that comment on my videos and watch my videos, then I'll do it a little bit longer. So just know that these are made for long form content. But I have been single for about 5 years. I've only really been in 2 long-term relationships in my life. I was married very young, very young. I got married when I was 17. I had my first child when I was 17. I was married for 13 and a half years and got divorced when I was 29. And then I became single for the first time, you know, just as a single mom, single everything, was kind of walking in the dark in life right at 30. I kind of had to learn how to be an adult and how to be single in the world, if you will, because I was really young. My father was a man of faith, and so, you know, I was not involved in his religion. However, I was very influenced by my dad and very kind of lived my life in sort of, you know, just trying to do what was right, I guess. And so when my ex-husband and I got married, we were just so young, you know, it was kind of like my dad was like, this is the right thing to do. So we did it. But we, you know, we lasted that run about 13 and a half years, and we both were very proud of that because that was a very long-term relationship for both of us. We were both 2 kids growing up together. We made a lot of mistakes. You know, we had no idea how to be married or have kids, to be honest, but we did the best we could, and it was a long run, and I was proud of that. I then became single for about 6.5 years. And I just basically focused on working and my, you know, having my children in school. And my kids are 3.5 years apart, as you could tell with the age. And so when I was younger, one of my biggest goals, even being that young, was that I wanted my children to grow up in a neighborhood or in a community where they could start at one school, go to the next school, and then graduate with lifelong, you know, friends if they could. And depending on how many of them chose to go to college or whatever, I still wanted them to have a community, you know, that they were familiar with, that they felt secure with, regardless, because life, you never know what life can bring, right? And we were young and I wasn't sure, you know, how long everything was going to last, to be quite honest. So I just wanted my kids to have security somewhere. And so they grew up going to this, you know, going to a really good elementary school, in my opinion, in a really secure, nice neighborhood. And then they went to middle school together in the same, you know, same middle school that all the kids from the elementary school would go. And then they went to a high school that all the kids from that area would go. And high school is when things changed for them and changed for me. And so I did not go to college or anything. I basically just started working as a temp. And being a temp was really interesting because it allowed me to do a lot of different types of jobs. But one thing I was good at that I never understood or even realized that I would be good at is finance. So my first secure job when I was young was I was a receptionist / sales assistant for a stock firm office, you know, an actual investor office. It was Morgan Stanley. And then, you know, later I actually started working at .coms and in finance. So, and that was all market related. And then over the years, as I was raising my children, I ended up in healthcare. But everything that I did, for some reason, because the internet, you know, my kids they were growing up when the internet was just sort of being born, and I didn't grow up with the internet. So to be a part of that at that time and kind of evolve technical wise was very beneficial, I felt like, in my eyes, because I was able to kind of grow with technology. So I did a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I did a little bit of customer service. I did a little bit of technical support. I did a little bit of everything. But always worked in centers with quite a few people. Didn't ever work in a small private office. I never did really well with that. I always did well with a bunch of people and with just sort of a high sort of drive and, you know, just energy in the room. And that's kind of what finance is all about. If you're familiar with finance, then you know what I'm talking about when it comes to the market itself. So that's kind of where I got my start, you know, and then I went into healthcare later and learned, you know, all about healthcare, and that helped me later in my life. So as the kids were growing up and as I was moving forward in life, my father started to become ill in 2006, and he had a surgery. He hurt his shoulder, actually, is how it really started. However, his test results and things did show that he was becoming diabetic and that he needed to really kind of start paying attention to that. You know, it was important for him to do that, and he really didn't. You know, he really did it. And so it caught up with him later. When he had his shoulder surgery in 2006 into early 2007, he wasn't really healing very well because of him being a diabetic at that point. And so once that started, then his health over time started to decline. And for some reason, he ended up, in 2009, late 2009, early 2010, he had a stroke. And then again in 2011, he had a stroke and a heart attack. And so as you can see, from 2007, from that surgery, he started to become very ill. My dad was not married. He had 2 younger children, and his youngest children and my children were very near to the same age. They still are to this day. So our youngest are a year apart. Our oldest are 6 months apart. So at that time, I was very active in my father's life. Like I said, he wasn't married. So the family helped out with the kids in school and things like that. So that's kind of how my life became super busy when I was young. And then, of course, as he started getting more ill, it became, just sort of something that sort of eased into our life. I am a half sibling of 6, and my father was married 3 times. So he had 3 older children before me and 3 younger children after me. And so my mom was the wife he was married to the longest. And then he had a young wife when he was, really young in life, and had those 3 kids. And then my mom raised his 3 children. And then later they divorced after 17 years, and my father met a younger woman, and they had more children together. And so I am one of 6 half siblings. So we all have the same father, different mothers. Technically, I see myself as, I am technically a only child, if that makes sense. So being alone or living alone or, just experiencing things kind of alone isn't foreign to me. But at the same time, the first half of my life was full. So I don't want to say I don't know what the family life was like, because up until I was about 10 or 11 years old, there was a house full of people. And then when I married as well, my ex-husband had a very large family, and it was a lot of, functions and get-togethers, and just they were very close. So they always made an effort to have a relationship with each other. And my ex-husband had all brothers except for 1 sister. And so that was an experience in itself. So that was 13 and a half years of him having all his brothers. And then I had 2 boys. And so I was surrounded by all these boys. As I got older, 10 or 11, 12, into my, youth, I learned to be alone. I was alone the majority of my life for the rest of my life, if that makes sense. So even though I helped my dad with his children, I was already, grown and adult. I had 2 kids. I was divorced, things like that. So I'm telling you all these details of my life because as my dad was progressively getting more ill, I became a caregiver. So it didn't start out that way. It started out with me just helping him a little here and there, picking up the kids from school, maybe attending, an appointment at school or something if he needed it, or, helping him if he had a surgery, like I said, maybe coming over and tidying up the house for them, or making food here and there, or going grocery shopping or whatever. But as time progressed, he actually, his surgery, like I said, was in early 2006 and into 2007. So it was right at the end of January, I think, or right at the end of December into January is how I remember it. So when he became really ill with the first shoulder surgery, as I mentioned in the beginning, that's where we started to realize that his health was an issue. He did continue to work and, things like that, but he was down for a little while with that shoulder surgery, and he was already in the midst of understanding that he was kind of becoming ill. With that said, I did help. They came to stay with us. The kids were involved and all of that. As time went by, throughout his recovery of that 2007, the late 2006, or all of 2007 recovery from his shoulder surgery, we lost my brother. My brother passed away in a car accident. He was the oldest of all of us. At the time, he was 48 years old, and he passed away abruptly in a car accident. And that happened in 2008. Now, in the midst of all of that, of my father being ill, my brother passing away, I had just had a procedure myself about 2 or 3 weeks before we found out that my brother passed away, and I was recovering as well. So it was quite a blow. It was our very first close-knit family loss, and it was hard. It was just hard all the way around. So chaos and stress is something that came into my life abruptly, and I learned how to deal with very, very quickly because I really didn't have any time. So even though I was trying to be on the mend myself, my focus was my father and, helping out with the family as much as I could with the circumstance. So the year went by. So my brother passed away in 2008. Well, my dad had a stroke at work where he fell down in 2009. And so when that happened, he ended up staying with me, and I ended up helping him recover again. So as you can see, we're progressively, it's starting to unfold, like this life that I wasn't sure was going to happen. So, in 2009, he has a stroke. In 2000, I help him get on the mend with all the all the appointments and the physical therapy and all that stuff. And so everybody comes to stay with me. Now, in the process of all of that as well on the side, so it's a lot. I just met somebody in late 2006, early 2007. So right at the same time that my father started to get ill, I met someone for the first time because I was single. I got divorced in 1999, and I met this person in 2006. November actually, and my dad started getting sick in late December, early January of 2006, 2007. So it was kind of weird. It was just a strange experience. It was a lot. It was just a lot. And so with all of that, my father had a stroke at work and, fell down and the whole thing. And so then the demand of helping him in his care became bigger. And it wasn't full on yet, but it was starting to become a clear message that he is now ill. You know what I mean? Like, we have this thing happening, and we already had lost my brother. So my sister did not live here in our state. She had moved out of state when she was young and graduated high school. She got married and moved to the South. So there wasn't a lot of people to help me. And so there was just really me. The other siblings that were left at that time were very, very young. Like I said, they were all super young. So with all this, my life was drastically changing, right? Quickly and rapidly. And so with my dad and his stroke, happening in 2009, 2010, well, let's morph to 2011. In 2011, my dad had a stroke and a heart attack. That was another big event. It was huge. When he went into the hospital, he went in and we thought with that stroke that it would be easily remedied, and it wasn't. He was supposed to have an angioplasty, which is where, they go and they clear out the veins, I believe, or something. But then he ended up needing triple bypass heart surgery. So that became a big giant thing. And me working and really my dad not being married or not really having a next of kin to help him, it was I just like slid and assumed in that position or in that title, of helping. And so with me trying to work full time and trying to be there for my dad, it started to become an issue, so temping really worked out for me, but at the same time it was becoming, bigger and bigger and bigger, and there was no one to help. So my father goes in to have heart surgery, and, he does well. It's a lot, but he does well. And then he goes on the mend, for recovery, which is they put him in a one of those facilities where people recover. I forget what it's called. I want to say vocational something, but I don't think that's it. It's like a where they go and they do physical therapy and they do what I mean. They do all these things. I forget what it's called. If you know, then you know. But anyway, so he went in there for a while, and that helped a lot just because there were full on the help that he needed was available at that time. So that was really good. However, I was still left to tend to all the things that he couldn't tend to because, again, my sister lived out of state, my brother had passed away, and my other brother was just in his own world. So with that said, it became more of a thing with me. And so I was not able to hold down a full-time job because my full-time job became helping my father. And that was a choice I made. It wasn't anybody else's choice. It was my own. But at the same time, we really didn't have, my dad didn't prepare for long-term care. We didn't have a lot of help, and I was the only one available. So if I was going to do that as things started unfolding and I really didn't have a lot of choice and I assume that position, I just thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to master it. And so that's what I did. So I started to learn more about the Heart Association, the Diabetic Association. And through this experience of the triple heart bypass, we found out that he had something called cardiovascular dementia. Now, that induced, dementia into his life and became Alzheimer's. And we didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know how long it was going to process or take. So with his condition and him having diabetes and some other health issues with the stroke, because remember the heart attack is the heart, stroke is the brain. So with all of that, it was a long recovery, and it became, he couldn't go back to work ever. So him being in the facility for a while, he was in there for quite some time, I won't lie. Well, I also had a surgery in 2012. And so as much as I tried to help, I also got one of my sisters to help him recover, when he was to go home, because I was going to have surgery myself. So I went, and arranged that, and luckily that was all said and done. And so I had to, I took quite a bit of time because the surgery that I was having was pretty big. So with that said, that's kind of how I became a full-time caregiver. And I did that from 2006 all the way up till 2018. My father passed away from Alzheimer's in May 18th of 2018. So it was quite a long journey, with that experience, becoming a caregiver, learning how to be a caregiver, and all of that. And then, that really taking a toll on me that I was not aware of. Because remember, I had mentioned to you that I had my own health issues. I had a small minor female surgery before my brother passed away in 2008. And then in 2012, I had a major surgery. So with all of that, that was a lot, and becoming his full-time caregiver was something that, was new. And like I said, it was quite large. It was a big job. I didn't realize how much it was going to take. And in the beginning, all the family did everything they could. Everybody worked together, did as much as they could, and we all tried to help as much as we could. And then, I ended up being the main source caregiver over time. And so with that, it was chaotic, it was stressful, it was hard, in some cases because it was so demanding and it was very physical. And I also had already struggled with anxiety and depression in my life personally, but also I didn't realize what was going on with my depression and anxiety as I was taking care of him and as I was becoming a caregiver. So throughout the process of taking care of my father, I did pursue therapy for myself and for caring for him. And learning of the disease and stuff like that, I learned that. And so therapy really became a big part of my life, and learning coping skills and tools and things like that. Therapy was not a stranger. I had already been attending therapy here and there when I needed it, but this was a different kind of therapy because I needed to find somebody that was specialized in grief and loss. And so I did that. And so I started to regularly attend therapy. And also I sought out some support groups, through the hospital who had helped. We needed plenty of help because my father was low income at the time. I don't think he intended to be that way, but my dad did not prepare for long-term care, which means old age, being, having a safety blanket if he was to get ill. So a lot of the programs and a lot of the help that I got him was through the state of California. We live in Northern California. And so I had lined up all of that. And luckily the hospital was a big help with that because they set me up with everything. But my mom also worked in healthcare for a long, long time in my life and also took care of my grandparents. So I kind of had a guide with everything as well. So everything just kind of, fell into place as it should. But also I ended up not working anymore because I just couldn't. The demand and the weight of taking care of an elderly person that had dementia was quite heavy. So over time, when I first started taking care of my dad, I didn't realize the toll, like I said, it was taking on me, anxiety-wise, physically, mentally, emotionally, the whole thing. I was developing panic attacks and anxiety on top of already health issues I had, personally. So it was kind of all building up, and I did the best I could with the counseling and stuff and reading and all of that. But a lot of my attention did go on my dad because it was so demanding. But luckily, when I first took care of him, it was I didn't work for, I didn't get paid to, of course, take care of my father until social workers came in and said, there is a program that we can offer you where you can actually get paid to do this. And you really should because, you're spending a lot of time here and, we want you to be compensated for that. So we did do that. And then over time we had inquired about as many hours as we could possibly get so we could pull in some other people in the scenario, which we did. We got family members and close friends of the family and stuff like that. My dad was also very religious. So there were people that would come in and visit and help if they needed to or whatever. So we had a lot of guidance and a lot of support with that experience. But that was pretty much filled, my life in terms of what I was doing, every single day. Like it was a lot because I had my own 2 children that I was raising. My dad was becoming more and more feeble. And then myself, I, was trying to just get by, to be honest. I had gotten into this new relationship, which was kind of took a toll on me also, and that was something that was an adventure in itself, to be honest. He was in the military, was in Iraq. He also had elderly parents, so we had that in common, but we were very different archetypes, very different breeds of people. And so even though we were, if you've ever heard of opposites attract, that's kind of what we were. But at the same time, it was a different type of relationship. I had never gone through anything I had ever been through with any other man in my life except him. And it was the hardest and most emotionally exhausting and grueling relationship I have ever been in my life. And I think that reflecting on now, I think that's the reason why I choose to be single. Like I said, I've been single for almost 5 years and we still are friends. You know what I mean? Like I went through my cycles with that. But anyway, with that relationship, it was hard. It was just different. It was hard. Like I said, we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not even really sure why I endured or stayed in that relationship as long as I did, but I did. So that is kind of the background, of like me and getting up to this point. Let's talk about YouTube now, because I said I would start talking about YouTube. When my father passed away in May, I was already established with YouTube. I discovered YouTube early on, probably around 2009. when I was looking into weight loss. I battled obesity my entire life. I was doing all kinds of things when I first discovered YouTube. So making videos is what I'm talking about. So when I first entered the realm of social media, I don't know, I think I started watching it and I was just like interested in like losing weight, and I guess YouTube was becoming a thing and I was trying to learn how to use it and stuff like that. And I suddenly, I stumbled upon people that were losing weight in different aspects, so when I first started with my journey, I battled my weight my entire life. So at that time when I discovered YouTube, when it started to come into the scene and stuff, I was looking up like just regular weight loss videos. I think what I was doing is I was trying to decide if I was going to do Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem at the time, because it was a thing. And I just wanted to try it. The commercials were coming on all the time, and I was like, I'm going to do that. So I decided to do Nutrisystem, and it was weird. Nutrisystem had this whole like website. If you guys are from my era, and you've ever done a dietary program like that, then you might know this. But Nutrisystem at the time kind of had like a blog type of thing, and it was so interesting because it was set up kind of a little bit like MySpace, and so it was kind of cool though, because you could document your experience with using the program. You could meet other people and build community within. And I met this woman, and through the blogging and, setting up the whole page and everything, and she was doing YouTube. So I think I got encouraged by her to make a channel or something. I don't know why, but that just comes up. It was a really long time ago, but I think that was kind of also where I was introduced into like watching videos and doing, YouTube and stuff. So I created a channel and I started to report my progress on Nutrisystem. And then I transitioned into I saw a doctor online, because when I was doing Nutrisystem, the food was not agreeing with my system. I am a high allergy person and I have a hard time. I've always had digestive tract issues. So when I was eating the food, it was making me sick, to be honest. It was just making me sick. My body was rejecting the processed food. So I really couldn't do much to that. So when I was trying to kind of figure out what I was going to do after that, there was this doctor that came on a local TV station, and he was talking about, of course, his own program. And also, this was the time, if you're from my era, this was the time when phentermine and fen-phen and all that kind of stuff was, around. I think what happened was they banned fen-phen, and then they came and they brought another, type of medication out there. I think it was called phentermine or whatever. And so when I went to go see him, that was the point. I was trying to get on a medication to help me lose weight. And then, of course, he felt at that time, because of all the fast pace and high energy in my life, that my anxiety wouldn't be able to handle that medication. So he ended up selling me his program, and I bought his shakes and his vitamins and all that stuff. And so I asked him if he would be part of my experience, and he said yes. And so I built this page on Facebook, and because Facebook was rising as well at that time, and I made a Facebook page and I started sharing that experience and me going, doing my weekly check-ins and all that stuff. And then the program was very expensive, to be honest, and I just couldn't figure out if I wanted to stay on it. So I started exploring other avenues, and I started to discover videos on YouTube about weight loss surgery. And I was never morbidly obese. I was always just 20 to 50 pounds overweight. I was never in the high category. So I wasn't sure if that was even going to be an option for me. So when I explored that option, I was young. I was really young. So, in my opinion, I was pretty young to explore that option. I was 38 or 39, I think. But I started to look into it to see if I would qualify. And I was not morbidly obese, like I said, to qualify for it, but I was going through the stages of trying to see if I could. So I made a consultation, met with the chief of surgery, because when they agreed to take on my case, I was the smallest case in that office. So he looked at my history of my family with obesity and diabetes, and at the time, the surgeries that were the most popular or the most, trendy, I guess, or whatever, was the band was failing. The band, I don't know if you guys remember the band, but what was really popular at the time when I came into the scene was the gastric sleeve and gastric bypass, which was already around and established and safe, and also was a very productive tool for diabetes. So when I met with a surgeon, and I had weighed 192 was the highest weight I was at the time that I met the surgeon. He said, well, in studying your history, I think I'm going to do this for you, because by the time you get in your 50s, if I don't do this for you, you'll be really overweight. And so he really did put me through the ringer though with that. I ended up having 30 pre-op tests, which is, there's testing that you have to go through prior to having the surgery to make sure you are healthy and strong enough to endure the surgery. The surgery is quite serious. It is almost compared or balanced with heart surgery because of the extent of it. So they told me. So you have to be really strong and you have to be healthy enough. And so I did have several tests. I had 30 pre-op tests and some things female-wise that I had to take care of before I could have the surgery. But eventually I had the surgery in 2012. I believe I was 40. So my birthday's in July. I am currently 52, just fast approaching 53. I'll be 53 on the 27th of July. So I had that surgery about 2 weeks before my birthday, July 16th, 2012. And so I'm post-op years and years now. Now, it did help in the beginning. However, I had a severe problem with all the medications they gave me. I was allergic to everything they gave me. So, and I'm anaphylactic. So the inflammation, swelling has always been a big deal in medications for me. So I had to stay in the hospital for a lot longer than they anticipated. Most people go home within 3 to 4 days, I believe, but I was there for 12 days. So, and even then it was kind of close. Like I wasn't really being able to do some of the things they asked me to do. So I ended up having to really, push myself to get where I needed to be. So I didn't have a feeding tube and all that stuff. And so going through the process of that, I did not lose the full extent of percentage of weight they wanted me to, but I did get close. So that was considered a success. Most people on average use 60% of their excess weight. I think I lost like 55 or something. So I didn't lose, and they thought because I was a smaller case that I would end up being super, super small, but that wasn't the case. I lost the bare minimum. But once I got on the mend, and I kind of got my, I established, a routine with it all, I was fine, and I ended up being able to maintain. I really never was super small, but I really never was morbidly obese. Like even now, right now, I'm the biggest I have ever been. So this is a new world, a new phase for me because I've never went above my original weight. And I'm bigger now than I ever have been. So it's, it's something I've discussed with my doctors currently. I'm about to be 53. Like I said, I had the surgery when I was 40. So now I'm almost 13 years out. So I am, also here to tell you that if you are obese and you've discussed any of these options with your physician, I will say that, the one thing they tell you, and I'm not a physician or doctor in any means or form, even psychology when I get to that part, not any of that. So, always discuss things with your physician and your mental health physicians. But, they always tell you it's not a cure, it's a tool. So if you don't use it to your advantage, from the beginning, because it's a lifestyle, then you will find that later as you heal and as you go on into your journey that you can resume old habits. And so, and it is what it is. But the tool is always there to help you control your path, but you can still get off path, if that makes sense, off track, so you can slowly regain, which is what I've done. And, I've discussed it with my physicians many times. And, now there's the new Ozempics out, and I talked to my doctor last year about it. I've been very apprehensive to go that route with dietary medication because I'm scared of it. But since we're talking about YouTube and channels, I will let you guys know if I start to make videos on my vlog channel about losing weight. So with all of that said, I started to document all of it, from the time I started to, go through the Nutrisystem program, to the time I saw a physician, a weight loss physician, to the time that I started doing weight loss surgery stuff. And so that's where I discovered YouTube. So I have had channels over the years. And then I kind of quit. I don't know. I think I quit from like 2015. Not quit, but I just took a hiatus, I guess. And then I came back to YouTube around 2016 late of, early 2017. And the reason why I circled back to make videos again is because when we were taking care of my father, we were looking for a way to save money. And so when I was watching YouTube videos, I first started wanting to learn how to coupon. And then the second thing that had gotten me interested is Dollar Tree and 99-cent stores like that. If you're not familiar, 99-cent store is now closed. They've closed their doors. So, Dollar Tree is here. And so I didn't know much about the store Dollar Tree. I just started to watch videos and, people started to incorporate what they call shopping hauls. And, obviously now, it's a thing. And back then I didn't know, so when I started my channel, even though I had pursued, doing coupons and things like that, I didn't know much about Dollar Tree. I just knew that it looked fun to go and shop and find these inexpensive things. But that was not, I made a lot of unwise decisions because I ended up spending a lot of money. So Dollar Tree, when I started my channel at that time, I started with, the discount stores, and I went from Dollar Tree to TJ Maxx, I mean, gosh, Marshalls, Home Goods, like you name it. And I didn't realize that a lot of people that were doing this type of work were not spending money everywhere they went. They were basically just showing the audience what was in the store. I was under the impression they were all buying things. So I ended up, wasting and investing a lot of money. But I had a channel from 2017 all the way up until 2020. And even though everybody thrived in 2020, I really didn't. I was just getting burned out. I had a channel, where I was shopping and doing shopping hauls for a long time. And when I first started the channel, it was doing really okay. It launched okay, but then I don't know. I just didn't feel the growth after 6.5 years. So I just felt like, so I pivoted and changed my niche into pop culture when the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial started. And I started live streaming and got the mics and the whole thing and pivoted that channel. And it did okay, because I had never live streamed before. I didn't know what any of that was about. My son's a film major though. My son, went to school for film, so he knows a lot about equipment and gear. And so he set me all up kind of and was trying to teach me about gear and stuff. And so when I was streaming, I didn't realize how much work went into streaming. I have such high respect for streamers. They put so much time and effort into their work, even on YouTube, going and being on camera all the time. It's a lot of work. So I just, in pivoting, I realized that, sorry you guys for the itching of my nose. I put makeup on and literally really, really itches my face. So I'm doing my best to not just claw my face off while I'm talking to you. Side note. But anyways, yeah, so I really wanted to, be a streamer. And so I tried it and it was just a lot. It was really a lot. I did okay with it because I started from zero, but it was a lot, so I ended up leaving that channel, had a conversation, and then ended up starting a new channel in 2021 that was shopping. And I decided to have multiple channels because I really love vlogging. I'm not good at it, but I like it. I watch vloggers all the time. And I decided to launch these two channels in 2021. So I went on that journey and it was okay. Like it's still starting again in 2021, because social media changes so abruptly. It was a lot. It was not hard to grow from zero, and the channel did okay. For some reason, my vlog channel and my car vlog channel, like the one I'm posting here, they always do well. Like car vlogs do really well because they're very raw and unedited. You just get in the car and you start speaking, and that's what this channel is all about. But I wanted to be able to make sit down videos here and there with you, so this won't be like, something I do all the time, but it is something definitely that I'm going to, do occasionally. So, but car vlogging, I love doing. I do it. The car vlogging was born when my father passed away, and I knew my life was going to change, and I was grieving, and I thought, what better way to record a transition than to do 365 vlogs in 365 days. And so I was doing that through conversation in the car, and that's kind of how car vlogging was born for me. And I got the idea from another male vlogger I was watching. I didn't see any females doing it at the time. So now a lot of people do it, because people live in their cars and in their vans and all that stuff. So a lot of people do it in a different form. But at the time in 2019, when I was thinking about doing it, I researched it and didn't see any females doing it. So I really had fun doing that. And although my subscribers were not really high, the videos always did well. And I don't know why. I think it's just organic conversation. It doesn't really have a niche or a point to it. Like the logo or the catchphrase to this channel is where we talk about everything and nothing. So, there's going to be times when I car vlog with this channel and I'm not going to have any point to what I'm saying. I'm just talking as if you and me were in the car running errands. That's it. So, and then other times, I'll be pondering because I feel like the two biggest think tanks in our lives are in the car and in the shower. That's how I feel. You do think before you go to bed, but I feel like you think deeper when you're in the shower or when you're in the car. That's just my own opinion. You can comment below if you agree or don't agree. But that's how car vlogging was born. So me having multiple channels was kind of always something I do. I always do it, you know? And I think it's just because I feel like each video that I put out has a place and I don't want to confuse my viewers. So for me, having multiple channels is a little bit challenging, but it's better than confusing the viewer and losing views, in my opinion. So, and I've always been a batch filmer. I've been a pre-filmer, so I film a bunch of clips. I film, you know, I film content ahead of time, and then, you know, I put it on the channels in the future. So I've always been prepared that way, you know. Vlogging to me, though, is a little challenging. It's a little bit more work. Sit down hauls, or, you know, sharing things that I bought, or going into stores and sharing things that are in the store is not as hard, in my opinion, because it's very minimal editing as well. So with the 2 channels that I started, that was just vlogging and discount shopping, and, you know, occasional shop with me through the store. Now I let those channels sit for 2 years, and they grew, but they weren't growing, if that makes sense. So you know, when I say that, I mean, one day I'm going to make a video in the future here shortly about how YouTube hasn't changed my life. Because I see a lot of videos that say YouTube's changed my life. Well, YouTube hasn't changed my life. So, and I've been at it for a really long time. Part of it, I think, is me with consistency and putting in the work. But even so, it's never really, you know, gotten to the point where I had all the features of YouTube. So when I say that, I mean, you know, YouTube changed its requirements back in 2018 or whatever it was to, you know, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time. You know, and then they changed it again in 2023, I believe, where they awarded people that have 500 subscribers memberships and super chats. And then they also give you the means to start a store. So if you have, you know, merchandise you want to sell, you can incorporate a store into your channel. Now, having those 2 channels, I only had a little over 300 subscribers on my vlog channel, so that wasn't really a loss because I wasn't really at a place where I had those features yet. But on my main channel, I had my main channel for 2.5 years. Well, I just deleted it. So 2021 to now, I think I deleted my channels in May, I believe, or no, in May, June, yeah, sometime in May. I think right around Easter time is when I deleted them. But I had 1,454 subscribers or something like that. I was past the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I only had 200 hours left for monetization. I also had worked with several brands, so I had built relationships with sponsored videos. So I had brand deals and I had relationships, you know, and stuff like that. And so I ended up, you know, I took some time and had some discussions with some friends here on YouTube that I have that have many subscribers. So, you know, I've met YouTubers over time that have had, you know, several subscribers, but my main idea of, you know, taking a beat and stepping back to figure out what I wanted to do with the channels was, I don't know, it was deep contemplation. I've taught myself to not necessarily react, but to respond. I just took some time and decided that I was going to delete the channels and start over. And that's what I did. And that was really a bold move on my part because never in my life did I think I would start again. Now I've made multiple channels for a reason. So I have this channel that will be car vlogs and sit down videos like this where I just have a conversation with y'all. And I'll frequently post as much as I can. I do have some pre-recorded footage from the previous channel, so I may, you know, drop a couple of those. I created multiple channels, so you guys know. So now we're going to shift into, like, you know, just where you can find me and what I'm putting out. So I have a car vlog channel, which is this one. Like I said, this is for sit down videos and conversation only. I have my main channel where I will be shopping and thrifting and stuff like that. And I may do a DIY project, you know, on that channel here and there. So we'll see how that goes. My friends are not in lieu of that. They're not supportive of that because they feel like it's too much work. But for me, I have always had multiple channels since I started YouTube. So it's not that different for me. I've never been one person that's just had one channel and put everything on it. I've always split it up. So now that you know I have several channels on YouTube, you kind of know the backstory of me. Later, I think in another video or in a follow-up video, I will talk about relationships and men and things I went through and stuff like that in another throne video. You know, we'll get to more topics if you guys want. So let me know if you like this style of video, because what I'm thinking about is making this like a whole mic thing, and, you know, I might set up a mic and just sit here talking to you and we'll just chill. But now that you guys know, I have several channels. Check them out, see which one you like, or you can just follow this one, whichever you like. If you like thrifting, you like DIYing, if you like vlogs, you'll see them. Now again, everything that I just established on YouTube for the channels is brand new, all of it. So check out the content and see which one you like, and just choose, where you want to hang out. So finally, I just want to do a very, very short clip segment of the mental health. So as I told you guys, being a caregiver, I have struggled with a lot of mental health. Since my dad passed away, I have had a lot of issues. I recovered pretty well from that, though, from grief and loss. It took me a while, but I have a lot of anxiety and depression and panic attacks and things from medical procedures that I've had. And so I've since developed PTSD, so they tell me. And I also have OCD tendencies. I have agoraphobic tendencies. One of my recent therapists told me I was borderline agoraphobic. I do believe it because I don't leave the house that often. So, and I struggle with that. That's something that I'm trying to learn as well. But I do struggle with anxiety and depression for sure. Panic attacks, when they arrive. I never can predict when one's going to happen. And I've recently discovered that the depression side of me is more situational. I feel like anytime, a situation happens in my life, or a trigger, a milestone, or something that's related to grief and loss, any kind of grief and loss, it really knocks me down, and it takes me weeks, sometimes months to get over. And I just had something happen recently that has kicked me into the same kind of depression. So I'm really struggling right now to even take a shower, get up, function. And at first, when I first saw this place, they had staged it to where they made it look super bright. Well, we found out once we moved in, this place gets zero sunlight. And if I would have known that, I wouldn't have moved here, because it is detrimental to my mental health. I feel like it's just sucking the soul right out of me. I have no desire, no motivation, no drive, nothing. I can't seem to get motivated here. It is dark 24 hours a day. And so go ahead, and as I'm speaking, you can see, or here, let me play the clip for you real quick, and then I'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, you guys, I lost a light. My apologies, but my light on the right side just went kaput, so sorry about that. But anyways, as you can see, it's dark in here. So also, all channels that I have are linked below, so you can always look them up by name if you want. But yeah, so that is everything. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on what I'm all about, if that makes sense, so you can kind of get a backstory on me and stuff, and know that I'm starting fresh on YouTube from scratch, and we'll see what happens. So I just kind of wanted to sum it up. This channel is based on, posting as often as I can, car vlogs and sit down videos like this. I really think that's going to be a cool idea for this channel. I will post as many car vlogs as I can, but I do want, the opportunity to sit down and just kind of discuss. I think in the future, like I said before, I believe in the clip, I want to try to get a mic in the whole thing. So we'll work on that as we go. I'm very excited about that as well, just because I love just kind of talking about stuff. But I thought if I gave you a little backstory on me, then it would kind of give you a better understanding, of my life. I do live alone. Well, I mean, I don't live solely alone, but I am alone. So in my mind, I live alone because it's just me and I'm not in a relationship, but I am not in a household by myself solely. I live with my youngest son for now. That will not be long term. That will be temporary. So as things change, I'll definitely share it with you guys. For now, I love having this office available to come in and sit. On the vlog channel, I do intend on getting more active on there. I'm trying to figure out, I just started these channels. I've been posting on them maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're picking up very slow momentum. I do have 4 channels in total. Every channel has a purpose. Every channel has a schedule for me. I do need to buy a planner and all that stuff. So in my vlog channel, I kind of go over those things. But also my birthday's fastly approaching, and I have some pre-made videos that I already made. It's been super hot here in Northern California, and we put this acoustic foam up in the back of the wall for a purpose, and that was for podcasting. I had a whole idea, a whole Pinterest inspired plan for this room, and once I got into a funk and into a depression, I just stopped working on it, and it makes me sad. I've been trying to pull myself out of it, like recently. So stay tuned for the vlog channel, because I am going to try to fix this room. This chair that I'm sitting on and the one next to it, I think I showed you guys this in the other 2 channels. The other 2 videos that I made of things that I've learned in my life. These are actually secondhand chairs. I got them from Facebook Marketplace, and I was originally wanting to reupholster them, or at least put some covers on them for the moment until I ultimately was to reupholster them. I think I think chair covers will work for now just to make them functional. And then I do have some plans, you know, for the rest of the room. I need to get a bookshelf in here. I need to get some plants. I want to put a table in between these two chairs so we can pull back the camera. I want to also, you know, get the rest of the other side of the wall taken care of because I want to put some artwork on there. In this closet, I intend to make a coffee bar, a closet coffee bar. I'm hoping I have enough time. We have another 6 months left here, and I don't think we're going to stay here. I want to try to make the best of it, but I don't want to invest too much money in this place because we're not staying for sure. We need somewhere lighter, and we need somewhere probably just as big or at least with a different floor plan. Because like I said, this place is almost, I think it's 1,910 square feet. So it's nice and it's spacious, but I feel like we need, you know, to figure out how to, we need to get somewhere where there's sunlight for sure, because it's not serving me at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. Smile because it's contagious. Take care of yourself. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next one. See you soon.